we're going to do sig figs in math. We're going to do a quick reminder right here. When do zeros count? They count when they're in the middle. So example 1, 0, 0, 1. The 2 zeros do count, as well as the ones that has 4 sig figs. And it's okay if there's like a decimal around. That's okay. This has 3 sig figs. But as long as they're in the middle, they do count. The only other time that they count, this is a two-parter, there must be a decimal. And the 0 is to the right, not of the decimal, but of a number, of a non-zero. So for example, zeros that count, all those zeros count, as does the 1. Again, the 0 is to the right of the number, so that counts, and the 1 doesn't. This would be 3 sig figs, this would be 4. And as a reminder, so only the numbers count in this case because these zeros are on the left. So that's 2 sig figs. 1, 2, 3, 4. We already did that one. That's 4 sig figs. Then 1, 2, 3. That's 3 sig figs. So we have 2 types of math that we do in General Chemistry 1. And I like to keep them organized visually differently. So you'll notice in the first block right here, they're organized horizontally, where I'm writing out the math horizontally. And then in this other type, you notice I'm writing it vertically. This is like those worksheets you'd get in, elementary school. It's vertical. So for me, that's my visual cue to help me remember the difference in what I do with them. With the vertical one, I use a vertical line to help me with my sig figs. With the horizontals, I go with a rule. So the rule for multiplication and division is that your answer rounds to the same number of sig figs as the least number in the problem. Now, little note, there are going to be some exceptions to this. In many cases, if you see a 1 in a problem, that 1 is doing something else. It's like holding a place in a problem. We'll be showing you how, but a lot of times when a 1 is in a problem, it does not necessarily mean that it counts towards sig figs. So 1s don't count towards sig figs a lot of the time, and then this is when a 1 is standing by itself. And then we've got constants. So we usually treat constants as not counting towards sig figs. So constants. So if you have a constant, it's like you pretend it's not there. But for a while, since we don't have constants right now, what you're going to be seeing is answers round to the same number of sig figs as the least in the problem. So I'm going to zoom in over here. And then I've got something that has 1, 2, 3 sig figs divided by something that has 1, 2 sig figs. So that means that my answer rounds to 1, 2 sig figs, which would make this, remember the 9 rounds him up. And sometimes it helps people to do it like this. Like I'll put a box around how many sig figs I need. And then I just look one number over, not any more than 1. Just one number over. And then that tells me how many that I need to round it with. I'm going to jump down over to here. So this has 1, 2, 3 sig figs. And then this one has 1, 2 sig figs. So my answer needs to have 2 sig figs. So I'm going to draw a box around it. And then I just look one number over and I try to decide if that's going to round him up. Yes, it does. So that number is going to be 0.93. So go ahead and do the other ones for class. And at this point, if you have to go take a quick break or a quick thought, You want to draw a line in your head about what we are about to talk about because it's not at all the same as multiplication and division. Honestly, you do a lot more multiplication and division in chemistry than you do addition and subtraction, but we do addition and subtraction also. So we're going to look at the first one. In addition and subtraction, its rule is that you round the answer. I'm going to switch pens. To the same place value as, and again, it goes back to like what was in it. Like, remember this one, it went back and it looked to the numbers in the problem to help them tell. So it is going to be related to the numbers in the problem. You round it the same place value as the least place value in the problem. So what does place value mean? Well, look, in this number right here, this one, it goes to the ones. This one goes to the tenths. Between the two of them, the one that has the least place value or the shortest place value is going to be right in here. So we draw the line, and this is how I do it to make it easier. I'm not drawing this down the decimals. I'm drawing it that matches up with this least number of sig figs, place value wise. So if I do that, and again, just look one number over, see if it needs to round it. No, it doesn't. So this is going to become 101. I'm going to jump over to one of these other problems. Subtraction, always be hyper aware, hyper vigilant about sig figs, because addition and subtraction is really easy to change up your sig figs. So notice this is in the tenths position and this is in the hundredths position. So I'm going to draw my line down that matches with the tenths position. And so this is where I'm going to round the number 2. And I always just draw a quick little line over. This does round him up, and so I end up with 11.7. Just remember that when you have 5 and up, in this position, the position that's over 1, that's when you round up. And then you might be wondering, well, how do I know which rule to apply when? Well, you do have to do the math in order. You're going to make a little note for any addition or subtraction. You put the entire thing in the calculator and round at the end. So it's kind of like you have to kind of think ahead, and then you go back and put the whole thing in your calculator. So the thing in parentheses is what we do first. And so 1.250 minus 0.26. This is the shortest place value. That's the hundredths place. So when I subtract, I'm going to get 0.99000. But look, I'm going to keep it, and this is going to give me 2 sig figs. And then over here on the right, that has 4 sig figs. So I know my final answer needs to be rounded to 2 sig figs. Now, in this problem, it doesn't show that it makes a difference, but there are plenty of problems where it will make a difference. I don't actually round it to 2 sig figs and then divide. I just know that my answer needs to be 2 sig figs, and then I go back and I just put the whole thing in my calculator. And then I round it to 2 sig figs, and I end up with this number. So we have the student learning indicator, so go back through all of your notes at the end and make sure that you can, that you understand and that you can answer these questions.